Well, greetings friends, this is Agamemnon here for SC2 Mistakes, where you get to learn from our mistakes. Seeing as this is the first video in the series on this channel, I'd like to give you a quick description of the format so you know what to expect and what to look forward to in the future. First of all, just to let you know, each video series is going to be a two-part series. We're going to have the first will be centered around one theme that's a major mistake that was made in the game. And that first game will be, it should be a losing game, so we can see why the mistake caused a loss. And then we'll have a second video, which will be part 2. In part 2, we're going to show the correction to that mistake, and then how that led to a win. Now, all these games are going to be viewed from the ladder, because the point is we want to be able to improve on the ladder, not just in custom games. So yeah, all these videos will be demonstrated on the ladder for you. Also want to note that this is not going to be mastery level play. Currently I'm top 10 silver, and so we're going to be centered mostly around games that are catered to beginners, or perhaps those who feel that they're stuck in bronze and don't know why. The theory basically is that watching master level play or pro level is fun to watch, but for us, perhaps not terribly instructive. So what we're going to do is focus on mistakes that we might not know we're making and improve those. So let's get right into our video. I'm going to load up the replay here. This one is this is myself versus Trust Mob. It's a PvT. Now this first video is, if you didn't notice in the title, this is going to be a mistake in the area of macro play. So first of all, why don't we call up the names. Let's take a look at the production tab there. And sorry guys, this is in 720p. I'd like to improve that, but right now my computer is chugging like crazy, so maybe in the future we'll get a little more high def for you. So focusing on this mistake, what we refer to as macro, not doing macro properly. Why don't we define macro? So, according to my thoughts, essentially, macro is the ability to constantly upgrade your economy, always producing workers, always producing production structures like pylons or supply depots, and the ability not only to increase your income, but be able to then produce units at a constant rate so that we don't see massive amounts of money in our bank. We're not earning interest on that. We want to make sure that we turn that money into units. So this first video here, I think even though this is a Protoss based video, the idea of playing at a macro style is applicable to all races. So first of all, this is going to be a demonstration of the Protoss 4 gate. Now the reason why I chose this video is because the Protoss 4 gate essentially is, I don't know if it's necessarily cheese, but you cut workers at about 20. I think in this video you'll see I cut workers at about 22. So that means that out of my home base, I'm not doing the proper macro mechanics, which would be to constantly build workers and constantly build supply. The idea is that when you cut workers, you're able to then channel that money into an army, and hopefully that army can crush your enemy in a pretty quick amount of time. So again, we've got our Terran player here. He's creating a wall, and in this game, actually, Trust Mob doesn't really follow the proper macro mechanics either. But I think it's a good demonstration of why, if I had, that this game could go very different. As you'll know, since this is the first video in the series, I do lose, and we're going to see why. Okay, so with regards to the build, we've got Gateway coming up first, Cybernetics Core second. I'm building a Zealot just to deal with any early pressure. Over here on the far right is one of my scouting probes. He's in this little hidden section here because what I want to do as a 4-gate is put down this proxy pylon in order to warp in units at a very close location to put a lot of pressure on this wall, hopefully break it down, and get into that base. So still training probes, but that's not going to last forever. Let's take a look at the unit counting station. So far I have 19 probes. I'm only going to build a couple more. I've got a stalker coming out to try and deal with this Terran scout. He'll clean him up, and then I should be building another 3 warp gates in order to make my big mean army. I've also got another probe here in the center of the map. He's going to put down a secondary pylon just in case I'm not able to, or just in case this other pylon here on the right gets scouted and taken out. So now the 3 other warp gates have gone down for a total of 4, as you can see. And I think I have essentially stopped worker production. So again, with regards to macro play, this is a big no-no. We want to see constant worker production coming out of this building here, constant pylon production, but instead in this 4-gate we focus on an army. Now unfortunately for me, my Terran opponent here, Trust Mob, is doing the same thing and making a pretty big army at his front. So let's take a look at the army tab. We have 450 mineral supplied army for Trust Mob and a 275 for myself, but that's going to shortly change. As you see right here in the middle of the map, I'm going to start my 4-gate warping, and we'll see how this goes. Okay, now I'm just going to kind of take note here. At this point in the game, I'm attacking with my army. I don't think that's a bad decision at all, and in fact you'll notice here that I get to intercept his. Our army values are fairly even. And I think this battle actually goes not too bad in my favor. So let's just take a look at that. Let's watch it. Army values are starting to get pretty not too great. I'm warping in some more here. We're staying relatively even. But what we're going to do at about 7:25, if you look at the timer, right about here. Now, I'm going to pause for a quick second at 7:25. And I'd like you to note how much money I have. So right now I have 370 minerals, and that's almost enough to build a nexus at my natural, right here. So I want you to imagine if instead of taking this relatively small army, reinforcing, and then attacking, what do you think would happen if I retreated this army back to my natural expansion and expanded? Well, what would probably happen, since our armies are at a relatively equal value, by the time I get back, I'm able to get that nexus up, start my expansion, and even defend at my ramp here, defend against any further attacks. Instead, what you're going to see happen is that I'm going to just blindly be going forward with this attack, even though there's a marauder-heavy army, and lose everything. And you'll then see, I'm going to hit play now, you'll then see that there's a very awkward situation that arises because I have not been maintaining that worker production and that expansion. So here we go, I've reinforced my army. Our armies are about equal. Well, let's take a look at what happens here. And as you can see, my army is basically melting away. Horrible. Oh, so painful, so awful. Mistake, mistake, mistake. Right? Okay, so now my army's melted away to nothing. And what do? Well, let's go up here. I've panicked, realizing I have no army, and I still want to expand. Now this is the problem that you run into when we're not macroing. Whenever you take a big loss in an engagement like that and then try to expand, the problem you run into is that you then feel the need to defend, right? So what do? Where do you spend your money? You only have one way that you can spend your money. You either expand and build up your probes and your supply, or you build up an army because you're afraid you're going to get crushed, right? So unfortunately, because I overcommitted in that attack and didn't retreat and expand, unfortunately I wasn't able to sustain this army building and the expansion. Now we're just going to speed this up, I think, because I think we got the feel for why this did not work. Again, not building probes. I can't afford, you can see my money, I cannot afford to also build an army. This is not going to defend anything. Notice that his army is now at 1,300 minerals. Mine's at 300. So basically what I've done here is I've handicapped myself. I can't build an army, and I can't even really build up my economy. So we're just going to speed this up, just so you guys get to see him completely destroy me. I'm building probes now. Let's look at the production tab. You can see there that I'm now building probes, putting down some defensive cannons. But his army is moving out. He's here in the center. He's coming up here. Let's slow it down. Slow it down a bit. I defend this, but my army still is behind his. I'm not going to be able to hold him off for long, especially since now I'm channeling a lot of my money into worker production and not so much into my army. You can see there that he has already doubled my army size, and it's just a matter of time. Let's speed this up, because you guys probably just want to see me get crushed now, don't you? Alright, let's go, let's go, let's go. Speed it up. And come on, buddy, do it, do it. Alright, I think here I'm actually trying to take a third. But again, don't have the economy. He takes it out. Boy, he could crush me at any time. He's basically doubled my army size. He's reinforcing. I'm trying to hold the ramp. But again, the point being that if I had expanded earlier, maybe around the same time as my attack, that I wouldn't be in this awkward situation. Where he's doubling my army. Now here we go. Slow it down. Oh, you guys didn't even get to see that. So I ran up here to try and defend one of his drops. Sorry about that. Wish you could have seen that. And he's come in and he's stomped me. Alright, so let's just watch this horrible, horrible thing happen. Looking at the army tab, you can see that again he's still double my size. He's expanded 3 times now, and I just can't do anything but defend. And that will be good news. Okay, so let's pause it there. As you can see, that didn't work out too well for me. So what was my mistake? Well, my mistake was we're going to focus on macro. I did not play a macro game. So yeah, that's about it. You got to see my mistake. You got to see me lose. If you enjoyed watching me screw up, I'd like to ask you please subscribe to the channel and like the video. Also stay tuned for part 2, where we get to see this macro mistake corrected and how it leads to a win on the ladder. Thanks guys, and we'll see you soon.